Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for registering, of course, and thank you for your attendance this afternoon. I know it's still a very odd time our industry is going through at the moment with a lot of changes afoot. You guys reopening offices, making up one-way systems in and out of the offices, 2-meter stickers. Who'd have thought this 3 months ago? Wow. Anyway, I hope you're all well, and you and your teams are getting back to normal. So we've got the fantastic Gary Barker this afternoon. My huge thanks to Gary and the team at Reapit for putting this together. I'm really excited about firing some questions to Gary this afternoon. We'll be getting started now, and the duration of the Q&A will probably be around 30 to 40 minutes, of course, dependent on the amount of questions you guys fire over as well. So just a quick note on the house rules. We'll do a quick introduction to Gary, who's going to say hello to you. We've got some live poll questions, so I'd love to get you guys involved with the webinar as well. So getting your voting fingers ready there. We've then basically got a live Q&A. It's the main menu today on future business needs for estate agency in a post-COVID-19 environment. And we've also got some analysis of the last 2 weeks by the team at Reapit. For you avid readers of the Negotiator and Property Insurer, you would have seen some of that yesterday, but Gary's going to put his own take on that as well. And of course, we can take any questions you have at the end as well. So quick notes on the house rules and the asking of questions. You probably already know this, you've done these brief market webinars before. I'll remind you just in case. All webinar attendees are muted. This is only just to avoid any background noise, any distractions, barking dogs, the kids, the other half, etc. Please use the questions option on the GoToWebinar control panel. I will try and answer all questions at the end of the presentation. I will leave a 5 or 10 minute gap there. However, just so you do know, if you do ask a question during the webinar and you click at the end on leave the webinar, I won't actually be able to answer that question. So it's not being rude, but if you do want an answer to that question, please hang around at the end and I will get to you. You may just need to click on the expand button on the GoToWebinar control panel. That just opens up the questions option. That's the orange arrow button, as you can see, that's on the screen there. So, on to the main guest, Mr. Gary Barker, Chief Executive Officer of Reapit, and over 20 years experience in the property industry, ex-countrywide head of development, of course, as well. Gary, how are you today?
I'm all right. I'm feeling very old all of a sudden now when everybody says kind of 20 years in, 20 years. I kind of keep looking at the people I used to work at Countrywide and they kind of quote their ages. I'm thinking, Jesus, I remember when I was like just out of university and kind of having my kind of first few roles. So thanks for that, David. Not feeling old at all now.
No problem. We've both got our hair, and we've dealt, we've probably combined about 35 years in the property, so we're doing okay. We're doing okay. I mean, for the 6 months, we'll see what happens, of course. But
and as my HR team have just reminded me, I've been 15 years today at Reapit, so I think I'll have a little take myself later.
Super stuff, lovely. Right, okay, so what we'll do, we'll fire away with the questions, and again, any of the guys that are in the room today, please fire the questions over. Obviously I can see them coming in, but we've got some set questions just to set the ball rolling and get the juices flowing. So Gary, what's changed? What for you guys, what's changed since lockdown, and how are businesses going to adapt and change, just quite simply, in order for their businesses to survive the next few months?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all seen that agency is, and how we do our jobs has fundamentally changed. I think I was talking to, I remember going back kind of 3 or 4 years ago when we were doing the management buyout for Reapit, and I talked to a lot of people and said, you know what, the one thing about estate, agency, if you do sales and lettings, fundamentally it keeps running. Sales might be a bit better, lettings might be a bit better, depending on the cyclical nature. But I don't think anybody ever foresaw that there was a scenario where the sales and lettings market could effectively close, which is what we've seen. And I think when you look at that, we're all having to adapt to that change in life. And I think I was quite interested to read the research from Josh Rayner, where I think he's kind of, his industry trend were kind of highlighting that, 2/3 of agents now actually want to work from home more often. And I think it'll be a question to kind of get across a number of different agencies. How many of those are going to be able to offer that? Can they be flexible? Do they have the right technology? Do they have the right processes? That kind of work from anywhere flexibility. And will that flexibility attract the right, the best talent to those businesses, or is it something that will just go, over the next 6 months, we'll come back to a kind of a period of what we would deem as normality? I'm not sure it will do personally. And I think kind of answering other parts of it, I think it's important to not just the agency side of things, but actually look at the end consumers and how much they've changed. We've seen, and we'll talk about it a little bit more today, we've seen an upturn in inquiry levels and activity levels because probably, we've got 9 weeks or so of kind of demand there that we're trying to leverage. But consumers have changed. They've actually got used to kind of doing digital viewings now. They've got used to touching agents in that way. And it's becoming, I think it's becoming a little bit more, a bit more of the norm. And we're seeing so many different ways of doing it as well. I've seen the typical kind of the Facebook Lives. I've seen the open houses. In fairness, David, I've seen obviously the new technology that BYM have produced on it. I've seen kind of the smart view technology. But fundamentally, consumers are accepting that now. They're accepting there's a bit of a change here. And most agents that I'm talking to at the moment have kind of said to me, this is going to be the new normal. Rather than actually jumping in their cars, they are going to go down the route of digital viewings as a first stop, but at the same time still being able to cross-sell financial services and conveyancing because they're building an engagement with the customer. But I think technology is going to have a massive place to play, and digitization is going to be a massive place because I think agents have realised that. And most of them were doing this. The technology has had to evolve with it, and you're going to see a lot more connected platforms. And I know we'll talk about foundations a little bit later on, but how you connect those different prop tech providers up, I think seamlessly is going to be really important. And it's come a long way over the last few years.
Yeah, super stuff. So, I mean, in this world, I mean, we've both dealt with a large cross-section of agents over the last 10, 15 years. Do you think the agents that simply just say no to digital can actually survive now? Do you think that these guys are really going to be under the cosh?
I think, when I get asked a lot of questions about kind of different models, and I think, you've got scenarios where they all work to a degree, and it's what degree and what penetration they get. So we've seen the online agents, and it's funny, everybody says to me, oh, you're online agents. Like, every agent's online nowadays. When you look at the digital solutions that are provided, and we've done some great work with kind of Starbury and some of the other platforms to integrate digital solutions. They're all online now, but how much pure online business, and then you've got the hub and spoke models, and everybody will work it slightly different. And I think ultimately the consumer will choose a route that works for them, and it isn't a one size fits all. I think fundamentally it comes down to, do you have the right tech, is your business model got the right technology and the right people? And I mean the right people to deliver, because I've had the pleasure of working with some fantastic agents, and some of those agents are now on to do different things. So I had the pleasure of working, Bob Scarf was my boss for a number of years. I've seen him kind of go down that Corwell route. But equally, I've worked with Ben Taylor, and he's now kind of heading up Keller Williams as a very hub and spoke kind of model. I've seen Ian McKenzie now going into the Guild and operating different models. But you've got to fundamentally have the right people to deliver. So you can have a guy that's the best hunter-gatherer, but is he the kind of person that's going to be able to work on his own as a personal franchise? Probably not. Does he need people around him to encourage that? So I think, the models will exist, and they and they will shift. The percentages will shift from time to time. But having the right people, make a big difference, and having the right technology to support that.
Yeah, super. Thank you, Gary. So that's the first part of the day. So you guys, your chance to get involved. Don't worry, it's not too hard. I won't charge you either, don't worry. So first part of the day is, what has changed in your business in the last 12 weeks? You can actually answer more than one here. So again, what has changed in your business in the last 12 weeks? So you're offering flexible working hours for staff. You're offering video viewings to vet tenants or potential buyers. Are you using data on your CRM system? Am I considering home working permanently? That's an interesting one. Gary has obviously just alluded to that as well. We've got some interesting votes coming in. Okay. It took a while for the votes to come through. I was rather nervous for a second. I didn't think the voting platform was working. So panic over. I'll give that another 10 seconds just so everybody in the room can get involved. So if you've not voted yet, vote, get involved, please. It's always good to get involved, get a bit bigger data set. Okay, right. So what have we got? 50% flexible working hours for staff. Gary, you've mentioned it. 75% offering video views to vet tenants and potential buyers. Again, you know, it was in the government advice issued on the statements and, of course, the documents on the 13th of May. That's very interesting. 50% using data on our CRM system, easy for me to say on Tuesday, in a different way. 63% I'm considering home working permanently. That's massive. I mean, of course, you know, you've alluded to it before, Gary, with the, the Josh Rayner survey. 63% there. That's really, really interesting. Okay, thank you all for getting involved. And again, it's good for you guys to get involved so we can share in the wider community what's going on, of course, with you guys initially. So today, so Gary, another question on infrastructure. So is an agent's infrastructure ready, do you think, for the new challenges the market faces? And are agents ready to go with the new normal? I hate this phrase, but we'll use it anyway. The new normal post-COVID. And again, it's really interesting you've mentioned the consumer demands, and of course, it's what they're going to expect now, of course, because the world has changed, hasn't it?
Do you know what? It has changed, and we'll talk, you know, as we talk to data, and it's interesting to get some of the responses and feedback from that poll, because, you know, I'm particularly interested in the tenant one as well. And when we talk about data, I'll show the huge increase in demand we're seeing on the letting side, you know, above and beyond pre-COVID levels already. Which I think, you know, when I also share some of the portfolio sizing, the shifts we've seen in that, they might answer some of those. But it's interesting. I mean, in terms of the actual infrastructure, first of all, I don't envy agents at the moment. I think the level of operational change that they're having to go through and encounter, you know, in order to open up their businesses. You know, I was watching Sean Newman unpack Perspex screens. You know, I went into my local office of Michael Graham. You know, all the little floor, you've got the floor prints in there. You know, I've got to stand, I've got to wait, I've got to get my attention. And actually all of this whilst agents are then trying to actually carry out viewings, valuations, keep in contact with their buyers, try and plan and proceed with their sales pipeline. They've got tenants that are becoming increasingly demanding. You've got end consumers that have actually, you know, I've talked to, I mean, Peter Knight's a good example of this. You know, looked at his travel and said, you know what, I'm fed up with traveling nowadays. This home working piece has actually got, you know, has got me looking at, do I want to actually have a role close to my office? And I've had kind of conversations with a number of my team that say, you know, we got so used to the commute to London that actually now we're thinking we're going to shift operations because we just want to be we don't want that commute anymore. We want to be in a way that we can actually work from one of the other local offices. But not have to make that commute. So we're seeing a huge, I think it's one of the reasons why we're seeing such an increased demand in the tenancies at the moment and the letting changes. So I don't envy agents having to make just the operationals changes. I also think that there's, you know, they've got to, they're having to look at the market in a whole new way now as well. You know, they're probably going to have to look at the market in a much more flexible way, and ultimately, you know, kind of one size doesn't fit all. I think agents are going to, you know, and as I said earlier, I get asked a lot about online and hybrid and hub, and we won't kind of dwell on that, but fundamentally they need, you know, an agent will need to decide which model they want to do and how they can actually make sure they've got the right technology to support that. You know, I asked my team at the beginning of kind of the COVID period to make sure that we maintained engagement with our customers, and those that were currently onboarding with us, because we wanted to, you know, really support them. But I'll be honest with you, I've had a few surprises, and this is not to kind of talk about anything else, but, you know, there are many agents right now who surprisingly, to some extent, made the decision to actually use this downtime to actually replace their CRM and replace their technologies, whether it's the whole technology or whether it's kind of lettings and accounts. But we've actually been pretty damn busy. My professional services team have been really busy kind of onboarding customers, and actually rolling out new deployments and winning new bookings, especially those where they haven't had cloud environments, so they haven't been able to take advantage of working remotely. The other thing that we've noticed though is that agents have taken the opportunity to really look at their processes, and I've had a number of people kind of contact me on social media saying, you know, does Reapit do this? How can I think about this? How can I think about that? And Richard Day in our customer success team, he's actually put together a whole kind of program around what we call task plans and workflow and automation. And we've been inundated with customers saying, okay, I want a task plan for past buyers and past sellers. I want to change the way I work with, I canvas past buyers and past sellers. I want a process managing new tenancies and new instructions. I want a way of automating processes and taking the opportunity to look at how they previously operated and go, does that work still? Does it resonate? And can I do something better? Because I've got a chance to do that. And I think the other thing as well is that agents have been looking, you know, in micro detail at activity reports, and I think fairly looking at when they can actually bring back their furloughed workers. And we've certainly been starting to run webinars over the last few weeks ourselves and publishing benchmarking stats to try and help educate people. And I know we're going to talk about some of that data in a bit, but it's really helpful for agents. But I think fundamentally, agents are going to go through, they need to be really flexible with the services they offer, and they've got to make sure that they've got the right operations in place and the technology that supports those operations. There's a lot of platforms out there. I've been hugely impressed with PropTech over the last 2 years, on the basis that it's actually now thinking about solving problems. I've seen some great tech out there, and certainly we firmly understand at Reapit that we cannot just become, we can't be an insular platform. We have to be, you know, at the center of an ecosystem. We've got to let other people plug into it. And certainly with foundations, that's the plan, that people can plug into technology now, rather than, you know, run isolated systems.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Okay, so a lot of change. You know, again, a lot of the good agents, as you say, and I was having a conversation earlier today, you know, as an agent who had spoke to another agent in the area of the country who had literally pressed the snooze button for 2.5 months, and, you know, he was bemoaning the fact he had, you know, chains falling apart because basically I haven't done anything for 2.5 months. The best agents absolutely go. They've been working hard and looking at their own processes, and they're in certainly a better spot to get the early worm. So, question number 2 today. Okay, so the majority of agents have offered video viewing since lockdown. What percentage of viewings in the last 2 weeks have you conducted as an estate agent that have been in person? So again, we're going back to the old school of we'll go and have a look around with the kids, or is it okay? Do you know what? We'd rather stay in. We'll see it on the iPad. We'll see it on the iPhone. We'll open the laptop lid up and we'll look at it that way. Again, you know, it's a real critical point for our industry in this, you know, and again, it'll be interesting to see what the the percentage of viewings will be, if it's for lettings virtually or for sales again. So yeah, please vote and get involved. No one's voted yet saying they're not offering video viewing, so that's an interesting one. So I'll give that another 5 or 10 seconds there, just so we can get a decent data set on that. Okay. Right. So, Gary, interesting result here. 43%, less than 25% in-person viewing. That comes out on top. So again, still a nervousness of people not necessarily want to go out there and step over the door of the people's homes. They feel a little bit more comfortable in viewing it on a screen. 29% second in-person viewings, around 50%. And then we've got an equal share of 14% for more than 50% and a 14% of over 75%. But Gary, as you said, I think you're absolutely right. It will depend on the consumer and what their makeup is. It might well be if they're a city centre dweller, you know, they're more likely to get back on the horse, so to speak. If there's maybe an older couple that are looking to move out to the countryside, that might be a little bit more hesitant on going out and doing physical viewing. So again, thank you for you guys for getting involved with that poll there. So Gary, obviously we've alluded to it just before. You guys, fantastically by the way, have been doing some free training. So you guys are helping offer free training for both sales and letting agents to increase their, excuse me, their output post-lockdown. How do I sign up? Everyone likes anything for free.
Definitely. Before I answer that though, interestingly on the poll, I think it's quite, I think it's going to be quite telling to see what happens in the letting scenario over the next 6 months. Because I have a view, and having talked to a number of agents, I think they're going to go digital across the board now, and that many tenants, will accept that, there's a video tour, I'm signing up for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months lease. I don't need to actually physically go, and actually overseas kind of tenants. And this may actually change that model a little bit. So I'm watching that space, and I'll be tracking your data along with other of the viewing platforms to see what that kind of looks like. But yes, in terms of training, for people who know me, I'm a massive advocate of training. I'm a massive advocate of learning how to best access something. And so we just looked at the industry and we said, look, now there's an awful lot of staff that have been furloughed. What can we do to support our customers and ultimately the wider agency market? And we had about 20 modules that were fundamentally around operating as an agent using the Reapit software. And we were able to obtain and one of the key things was that we were able to offset from, kind of CPD points against it as well. And so we were pretty conscious that, a number of our agents go and work in other agents and they have experience or they come from other businesses. So we basically said, look, we're going to launch our training platform and we're going to open it up to not just our customers who are furloughed, because I think one of the things that I don't think came out very early on is that furloughed workers can actually undertake training. There was a lot of questions around that. And I think for those who haven't picked up on that and still have furloughed members of staff, I absolutely encourage kind of training out there, and so people keep up to date with their kind of CPD, they keep up to date with their compliance, and actually they gain additional skills whilst they are furloughed, and it keeps their brain fresh. But certainly we've been a big advocate of that, and I think we see training and support as being fundamentals to the service we deliver. And I know that most prop tech companies see that, if you increase your usability of your product, if you I hear people talk long and long about, if your software's got 1,000 features but only 100 of them are used, then you've kind of failed. So our view is, what can we do to accelerate that? And we actually track through our software what features people are actually using, and we try and develop training for that. So look, anybody who's never either used the Reapit software and wants to carry out some additional training, wants to increase their CPD points, or those that have never used it before, just go onto our homepage on our website, register, no cost, no charge, and actually you can keep using it going forward as well. And we'll certainly keep extending that with more webinars and with like the likes of yourselves, and certainly success tips, articles, but training is a good opportunity right now to enhance training and and especially cross skill between sales and lettings.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And again, what I'll do as well, I'll go on the Reapit website. What I'll do, I'll put the actual link to where you guys can sign up on the follow-up email I'll do from this webinar for you all as well. So, Gary, that's fantastic. Thanks ever so much for sharing that. That's awesome. So, as we all know, we all read the Property Media Daily. There's been a significant increase in activity in the industry overall based on the figures that we've seen from Zoopla, Rightmove on the market. You guys, of course, released a fantastic amount of information. We're going to speak about a little bit more detail. Are agents as active as they should be and ready to deal with this from your conversations and what you've seen so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really, really interesting time for the industry. On the one hand, we're seeing, on the face of it, consumers incredibly eager to get back into the property market and certainly resume their plans. You know, I kind of wrote an article for Forbes recently about when agencies would reopen back up again, you know, based around some data that we kind of had some data points on what was going on. And, you know, I was actually gobsmacked. We had something like 220,000 views of that from actually consumers looking at when agents were opening back up again, and a lot of comments around we can't wait to open up. And more recently, as at today, actually, we've just seen some data from Jefferies basically saying they did a consumer audience review, and 50% of their audience that they surveyed are still looking to move house in the next 12 months. Admittedly, that's between an age group of kind of 18 to 40, so we may see increased demand in kind of FTB, you know, first-time buyers, and you know, that end of the market. But equally, we might see a shift in the kind of downsizing. So I'll be keeping a watchful eye on that one. But I think on the other side of it, though, we are certainly tracking activity in our software. And I think because we cover just over 30% of all UK transactions, heading up to about 33, 34%. And I think we've seen, you know, on the face of it, some fairly remarkable recovery in levels. I think I know that Rightmove and the portals have talked about the increased leads. It is true, and we'll obviously share those stats. You know, I've actually got the stats for this week, David. So on top of what I shared with you previously, we're kind of, you know, in terms of lettings and, you know, sales and lettings leads, on average, we're about 115% of pre-COVID levels, and that's internet inquiries coming in. Now, I'm the first to sit there and say it does, just because an internet inquiry comes in doesn't mean it's always valid. And maybe I should have Bob on here, because he could probably pick up the call stats from Caldwell to say, well, of those internet inquiries, what do they actually track at? And the likes of Andy and from the Yomdale team, where do they track at? We're certainly seeing registrations typically around 50% of inquiries being registered. But what we are seeing, though, is, you know, a fairly significant increase in viewings. So not quite at the level of kind of pre-COVID. You know, viewings literally this week, we're about 70% of where they were kind of pre-COVID levels. But what I have seen, and I'm a bit shocked by this, to be fair, is the number of properties that are registered on the letting side to be marketed is actually it's been an increase since pre-COVID of about 30% increase since pre-COVID levels. So it's kind of like I am seeing huge activity around the letting side of things at the moment, and certainly, you know, valuations 2/3 of where they were pre-COVID level. Arranging tenancies are up. So the actual, you know, the key indicators that we would use kind of show where the market is at is really, you know, is actually showing positive signs, and I know we'll show that in a second. But one of the things I would also add as well, which I think is really interesting, is that I've been really impressed by the quality of the pipeline as well. With kind of 2 weeks back into kind of working, and you know, I'm quite happy to report that since pre-COVID to now, the sales pipeline has dropped by only 9%. And if you factor in the number of completions and new offers into that, 9% is not a lot at all. You would expect a far higher churn, far higher churn. So we're seeing sales pipelines really hold firm. What I would say, though, is we are seeing a lot of hard work, and I mean really hard work, from the agents right now, having to renegotiate a lot of those, because I think there's been a lot in the press about, you know, what's going to happen to house prices. And the first conversation that a buyer says to their agent is, am I paying the right amount of money for this property? You know, should I be paying less? I've read in the news that house prices have gone down by 1.7%. What should I be doing? And what that's doing is, unfortunately, agents are having to work incredibly hard to keep those pipelines in place. And by the looks of it, the buyers, I think, are really holding firm. But finally, on kind of data, one of the things I'm really pleased to see, and this is where I think agents really do kind of work so hard, and in the good times, they don't benefit, but when things turn hard. So from a landlord perspective, we've actually seen a 20% increase in properties being placed on rent collect rather than let only. And so all of those landlords that were collecting the rent themselves have now gone, geez, this is kind of too hard. You know, I'm not doing this. I'm gonna pass it over to the agent. But 20%. So, you know, and this is it. The agents sort of, you know, and the agents then have to take on that work. And credit to them for picking it up, having those hard conversations with tenants. And I really do hope that that in turn increases into, you know what, we've done such a good job with your rent collect, we're now going to move into management.
Yeah, no, it's a really good sign. And again, and you know, we mentioned it before, it could be that, you know, for the lettings industry, again, that, you know, it's very agile, it moves very fast, as you say. Things like that come to the fore, and again, for the benefit of agents. Thank you, Alex Chung, by the way, for the contact I made on the questions panel there. He was saying he's looking to automate all parts of the lettings process going forward. So again, you know, it does lend to what's going to be happening soon. So on profitability. So again, that's what we're here for. You know, it's our bread and butter. How will technology drive increased profitability in 2021 for estate and letting agents? And again, you know, I don't think we're both daft enough to know that it's going to be extremely tough to drive profit in 2020 for what's going to happen. But again, obviously, if people looking at their infrastructure and maybe permanently working from home, having agents working, you know, their office environment, what do you see? Do you think there's an opportunity for people to look at everything and actually become more profitable out of this?
I think I think there is an opportunity for this. You know, I don't think anybody knows what the number of transactions are going to be out of this. We know there's a lot of, you know, we know what we've just demonstrated is there was a lot of pent up demand that's playing catch up. We know that we've seen a huge increase in kind of lettings activity. How does that translate to obviously the market itself? I think is unknown at the moment. Is this going to be, you know, in China, we know their property sector was very much a V. It dropped off a cliff, back up again. In Australia, we've seen it kind of drop off and keep ticking up bit by bit, and it's going to be a steady increase. So far in the UK, 2 weeks in, it's a bit early, but we're certainly seeing positives. But I do think agents will take the opportunity to actually really, you know, as we said earlier, look at how they run their businesses. Have they got the best quality operations? Have they got the best quality people? And fundamentally, have they got the right and the best technology and the most reliable technology to allow them to differentiate and take advantage of as they move forward? And I think they've got to make sure they have the right technology to be responsive to what they need and what their customers need, because it's not, you know, what their customers might need right now. They've got to make sure that they can second guess for the future, because it is beginning to change. And I think, I mean, if I talk about it from a CRM perspective, that means you've got to be in a position where you can customize it. You've got to be able to have, you know, task plans, workflow, customization. You have got to be able to integrate. A good friend of mine, Simon Whale, Worked with him for a long time. He did a big piece of research. On average, 15 agents use 15 different products, and you've got to make. And they all solve they all solve part of the problem. The CRM and that sits at the center of that. It makes sure that you've got customer engagement. It makes sure that you're tracking sales. It makes sure that you're doing your lettings, you're onboarding your tenants, you're collecting your rent. But outside of that, it needs to plug into different solutions. And BYM being a good example on the marketing automation side. We've got Starbury on digital. We've got Corewell and kind of Yondell on live chat and call management. We've got Focal Agent in terms of managing the relationship. And we've got to provide a way where that human connection is seemingly there, but a low physical connection, if that makes sense. I think the key is being able to do it immediately, fast. Being responsive, the consumer wants something now. Let's make sure we can give it to them now. I think agents who are responsive and actually can engage with their consumers far quicker, far more digitized, far more in a way that the customers want, will be the most successful. And as I said, certainly with the Foundations platform, that's exactly what we're absolutely all about. That we believe that whilst the CRM sits at the hub of it, we absolutely had to create a platform that sits above that, where all of our partners can connect to it. And just for your benefit, David, we've got over 200 partners registered, developing apps at the moment.
Wow.
Because we know that agents use kind of 15 other applications, we've made sure that we've got a seamless way that they can implement those products. One sign on. Guys, our tech guys have been amazing. How many times do we sign on to when we're buying online shopping with our kind of Facebook or our PayPal, those kind of authentication? We've built Reapit Connect, which allows us to authenticate with all these different platforms, one username and one password. You don't have to worry about it. And then in fairness, David, I think it's probably asking a question of you. I'll turn it on its head. I know you BYM are building an app into the marketplace, because agents do have specific pain points. I think it'd be, from your perspective, how do you see that interaction and having an app in our marketplace change the way agents view their marketing campaigns? I don't know what your view of that is.
Yeah, a lot of the agents we've spoken about, and again, our conversation with agents, it's actually been quite, and again, like you said yourselves, it's been a positive that we've actually had a chance to engage and actually speak with a lot of agents during lockdown. So let's be honest, a lot of them, furloughed 70–80% worth of their staff. We've actually had some really interesting conversations. I was speaking with an agent in Shropshire about this, and he actually literally gave me a list. He said, David, do you know what? This has given me a chance to literally go through everything our agency does. And again, you mentioned like doing a tenancy, doing this, looking at maintenance. Obviously, he then signed up with Fixflow, for example. So what it has done, as you say, for the good agents, it's given them opportunity to look at everything. And again, brief your market, you're absolutely right. There were some agents who literally, as a decision maker of the agency, wasn't necessarily involved on the day-to-day of the marketing side and saying, right, well, what will happen after evaluation after 24 hours? Can we send a survey out, for example? Or if a tenancy has got 3 months to run, do we then automatically email the landlord and say, oh, by the way, this is coming up? Or for, obviously, as we know about the new electrical safety guidelines, again, do we send a prompt for that? So you're absolutely right. A lot of people have been given that time and opportunity to actually think about that and go, actually, do you know what? I can actually make my life a lot easier here. And again, the physical and light human touch element to a lot of tasks will come to the fore, because agents have had that time to just digest actually what goes on in their business. And the better will thrive out the back of this. I really do believe that.
Yeah, and I do. And I think, when we go back to that kind of, the apps in the marketplace and how that works. Imagine a scenario. You're going to be in a scenario where, from a BYM perspective, every single campaign that you offer is going to be sitting inside, the Reapit application, so that, a business owner can immediately see that, yesterday they sent out 30 campaigns. These people opened up these campaigns. We generated this business and these inquiries off this campaign, and subsequently we remarketed to these past buyers and past sellers, and it created this opportunity, all seamlessly from within one place. And actually, you know, making it a lot easier for decision makers when they're actually running technology. Because I tell you, the hardest part of running a business is which technology do you go for, and how do you get the best out of it. And I think what we're trying to do with Foundations is make sure that we pull all of that into one place, and help people make those decisions, and create create an ecosystem where everybody can work together. And I think that's something really important.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, the goals that have been on the previous Reapit market webinars, you'll know, obviously we've had the guys on, and Gary's already mentioned them, from Yomdel. You know, it is some really, really cool and interesting tech which is out there, which again is very, very easy for you guys as decision makers to basically just log in and go, oh, by the way, yeah, you know, I paid X amount for that, but why is my inquiry Z is, you know, the output from what we spent now. So again, you know, some really super stuff. So Gary, obviously we've mentioned the Reapit analysis. I'm just going to go across the day, I'm just a bit wary on the time here. So again, I mean, the headlines we've got from this, and again, I mean, this is absolutely mega. 87% week-on-week change in the last 2 weeks. Combined net sales and lettings viewings. Anything else that you can speak about there? I mean, again, an interesting, I was speaking with an agent down in Berkshire, actually, and he was saying, David, at the moment, I can take on so many properties. All these people have been waiting to, you know, invite their local estate agent round. But I mean, this was probably, well, a week and a half ago now. He said there wasn't many offers coming through. And again, obviously, you've got, you know, a much larger data set than I would have in speaking with one agent with 5 offices. But again, on the sales offers, that looks quite encouraging, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it really does. And I think because I've got a slightly head start on you, and I've managed to, not that my team know about it, but I run the additional stats for this week, kind of finishing on Sunday. So it's like literally hot off the press. We're also seeing that pipeline going really well as well, because the exchanges are up. You know, our exchange volumes, you know, are near as damn it 80% of what they were pre-COVID. So we're getting that pipeline through, and I think that's a confidence factor as well. That as an agent, I'd like to see that, you know, that's not just within my own agency, but across the UK. You know, pipelines are proceeding, and you know, completions are. You know, whilst completions aren't quite yet at the level they are, they're still kind of 60% of pre-COVID. But fundamentally, we are seeing that demand in the market. How much of it is pent up, we don't know, but we're certainly going to be running statistics every single week now, and we're going to be publishing them out on a weekly basis, because we feel it's important to benchmark against that and give agents the insight that they actually need. So yes, we've still got a little way. We've still got, you know, and let's not forget, pre-COVID we were at the peak of where we were going. You know, that was like, you know, we were really rising. We were on that crest. We're not. So to say we're not quite back to pre-COVID levels, you know, we were on a rising market anyway. So it's not all doing. You know, what's nice to see is levels are really picking up. It's not like it's gone completely down. They are picking up. They are accelerating. We've got 9 weeks to catch up. What happens over the next 9 weeks? It's interesting, and we will certainly be publishing that data and doing a lot of insights into it to kind of help agents become more aware. And longer term, we'll be putting this inside, you know, the Foundations product, so you can actually benchmark yourselves against the industry. You know, viewing to sales ratios. So, and you know, our customer success team are running webinars on a weekly basis to take people through that. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, and again, you know, just a note, so I know we have the regulars that you know coming through the door for the Reapit market webinars, and again, you guys know I do a news grab of what's gone on in the last week. I will certainly be picking up on these, you know, and you know, as Gary was saying, 33 to 34% worth of you know, estate agency offices out there. You know, we're looking at an absolutely tremendous data set here, so I'll certainly be keeping an eye on that as well. Interesting point, Gary, we've got in from Mr. Bob Scarf as well, about the response times on agent inquiries. Really, really interesting. Again, you know, you know, I mentioned, you know, we have a tie-up with Yondell, but again, you know, Bob very rightly saying that, of course, you know, don't, you know, Bob heads at Corwell. You know, do you think, well, of course it is, it's really important that agents can actually deal with this demand, isn't it, really, and have that, you know, response time within a certain time period. You know, I've not actually inquired personally with an estate agent since COVID. Obviously, I've been trying to get hold of them for my own professional reasons, working the briefing market, of course. But again, it'd be really interesting. I know Peter Knight obviously does a lot of this with his EA Masters project. But again, the service element's really important. So again, look at the likes of Corwell, Yondell, and what have you. You know, it might well be that, you know, if your business is such that you cannot simply take the risk in and furloughing staff at the moment. Of course, you know, this goes up to the first, you know, 31st of October. Of course, you know, speak to the team at Reapit, speak to myself at Brief Your Mark. You know, we've got some very good years under our belts. You know, we will give free and impartial advice on, you know, how we can help your challenge. I'm sure Gary will agree with that as well.
Yeah, I absolutely do. I mean, you know, I'm fortunate enough to be able to look at the data here, and Bob knows well that 50% of the the internet inquiries or just over 50% of the internet inquiries that get registered in our software don't actually make it into the kind of CRM pool, if you like. Now, a lot of that is potentially duplicated, and a lot of it, and a good chunk of it, is actually kind of not really qualified. But certainly, you know, having seen some of the products that I've seen more recently with Area and some of the tools that Kai Wheatley's using over at Keaton's, the Corwell platforms, you know, there's a lot of ways out there that, you know, people can actually really see what's happening with them. And you know, I think there are business that people are walking away from, and then we see the same thing, not just with internet inquiries, but with you know, kind of individuals that have got properties to sell in another area. You know, that kind of vendor referral platforms. We've got them built into the software, and we see those not actioned as well. So we're definitely funneling our way into that to help agents, because sometimes, you know, the right people don't know about it. So we're going to make it very, very evident in the platform, and we do it with our value reporting to highlight how many opportunities have been missed as a result. And I think, you know, but the good agents, when you see them, and we're fortunate to work with a lot of really good agents, they're bloody good at this, and they maximise, you know, all the opportunities in front of them. So it's not all bad, I have to say.
Good stuff. Okay. So, one final thought, Gary. What have we learned as an industry on lockdown?
You know, I think there's a few things that we've learned. I'll tell you one thing that I'm particularly proud of is how the agency community stuck together. And I've seen, I don't know about, and I know you've seen it as well, but there's been some fantastic partnerships. I'm lucky enough to sit on the ICG, and you know, how those partners and how agents have worked together. But I think there's going to be some real lessons learned, and they're going to become more apparent as we return to normal. And the preparation work put in by the agencies in this quiet time will really begin to bear fruit. And I do firmly believe that agents will be much more focused on digital journeys, supporting the traditional model, things like social media, lead gen, past buyers, opportunity management, FS opportunities, remortgage, property management, asset, you know, agents becoming asset managers as property managers. And I think, you know, agencies have learned, I think, without the right technology powering their daily activities, that they're a little bit like sitting ducks in the water. And I think technology ultimately needs to give you the options and choices and freedom. I think you know, we talk about, you know, the ability to captain your own ship. I think those that without it, I think, have learned a painful lesson. But at the same time, there's enough time to turn that around, I believe, and it just takes a little bit of change to, you know, embrace the right technology and the right processes. But you know, we've been reminded that, you know, of the resilience of this industry and the people we work with. We've seen so many amazing stories of help and assistance, and you know, and I'm really pleased to see that coming through. And I think, you know, we've seen a lot of companies operate volunteer schemes. We've done the same thing, and I've been overwhelmed by how the agency community has stuck together. But you know, when we come out of this the other side, you know, I think agents that have taken the advantage of technology and to adapt their processes, they will accelerate and benefit, with increased market share.
Yeah, 100% agree. Super stuff. Thank you again, Gary. So, a final poll of the day for you. It's a nice and easy one to finish with. Are you interested in a free consultation from the team at Reapit from what's been discussed today? Gary was very kind, obviously spoken about the fantastic Foundations platform. I'm certainly really interested in getting some more information on that myself, and again, having that, that one login. I think I'm probably as guilty as most of having sometimes a little notebook with some of my logins in. It's probably not as secure as it should be, I guess. But again, there's some absolutely fantastic stuff happening in PropTech, as Gary said. It's a really exciting time. Again, the best agents have taken the opportunity of having the time to look at this. So again, if you'd like to speak with the team at Reapit, just click on yes, and of course I will pass that to Gary. Okay, so thank you all ever so much again. It's been fantastic. A huge thanks to Gary and giving up his time. I know you're a very busy man, Gary, so thank you ever so much. I do personally really appreciate that. It's been fantastic speaking with you this afternoon. Coming next, okay, so we haven't got set dates for these just yet, because we're at the moment I'm still trying to gauge on how you guys are getting on out there, and of course you guys still, as Gary has mentioned, you're putting screens up in your offices, you're putting 2 meter stickers all over there. So again, I want to make sure that the timing of these is right. And Gary's mentioned we've got a new video platform for Brief Your Market, which is very much pending. So we're going to have an exclusive video viewing and valuation training session for your lettings and sales negotiations. As Gary has said, you are allowed to train your furloughed staff. So please, when I communicate with you, get your teams on there. And also as well, we can look at using the power of your data within your CRM system to drive business by content marketing as well. So some really cool stuff coming up. Gary alluded to the likes of the relocation agent network. I mean, negotiations with them guys and close to agreeing a date there as well. So again, how you can look at the opportunities and power that through the likes of your CRM and Brief Your Market as well. So we've got a little bit over time, so I hope you haven't lost the audience. I don't think we have actually. So thank you all for your patience and attendance today. It's been really fantastic. But really thank you for your support with these webinars you've been doing. You've been absolutely fantastic. Again, a huge final thank you to Gary. Have a great evening all, and we look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care and thank you again.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Cheers, Em.
Cheers, Gary. Bye now.